All right. What's up, folks? So I'm going to do this alone tonight. I don't know where Sonny is. Maybe he'll join in a little bit. But I wanted to just give an update because I'm feeling a lot of like negative kind of energy right now. And I want us to just reflect a little bit. Sure, the House of Commons passed the Emergency Act. I mean, is that really a surprise? Is that really a surprise that that happened? It's not a surprise, kind of to me. Like think about it from the money perspective. All those, if because they made it a confidence vote. So just for context, what a confidence vote means is that if that motion for the Emergency Act had failed, then it would have triggered an election. And I believe the House would have been like kind of like, dissolved until the election happened. So there wouldn't have been any more decision making. And obviously the act wouldn't have passed. Now, it just took the Liberals and the NDPs to vote it through. Nobody else kind of voted in favor of it except for Elizabeth May, who used to be an advocate for kind of freedom, but I guess she's kind of an advocate for the empire, or also wants to keep getting paid. Because really, at the end of the day, what I think this was about, just turn this light on, like from an NDP perspective, was this about the NDP holding on to their paychecks because they are going to get wrecked. They did not. Traditionally they're a of the people, by the people, kind of working left party, whatever you want to say, but they have opposed everything that the truckers stand for, that the working class, like this is the great Canadian convoy, and they didn't stand with the people. So Jagmeet and his crew are in my opinion toast. And why they wanted to keep going is because they keep getting paid. So as long as they're MPs in positions of power, they'll just keep getting paid. So like for them, this was like about personal money. And if they'd voted, even if like their conscience was saying it, like ultimately like the green side of them, I think, got to them, plus the power. But anyways, it goes to the Senate tomorrow. Hey, senators, if any of you are watching, you hopefully don't need the money because you've been on the rake for a long time. And the whole point of the Senate is it's supposed to be a body that is of integrity, that oversees the laws of the land and kind of assures sanctity within the rulemaking. So there have been so many constitutional challenges towards this War Measures Act, renamed the Emergencies Act. It is not, we're not in an emergency. There's no emergency. There's no emergency. So just, to the senators, many of which I've engaged with, I presented to the Senate of Canada many years ago. Stand up and say no if you can, but I don't really expect them to. But it would be great to be surprised. Ultimately, I think we've got a major problem here of the actual institution of our Westminster governance system. It no longer kind of supports the people. But before we talk about that, because I want to talk about that, because behind me is this book called Canada: The Time for Liquid Democracy Is Now, which I think is what we need to start looking at. We need to look at new models that make the existing one obsolete, that we can peacefully transition to return power to the people, return the voices to the people, in a flat model, not a pyramid of control where we think we are, reporting to these people at the very top of the pyramid. Additionally, I think it's important to also say that we have, like, what happened in Ottawa for the last 3 weekends was a monumental success. 17 days of freedom festival movement, freezing man, radical collaboration, creation, communal effort, gifting, inclusion, self-expression, immediacy, participation, cleaning up after ourselves. Crime was down. Like, truly amazing. Like, and I know it is crushing those people, the powers that be, because they weren't involved in it. It wasn't a corporate thing. You didn't have to buy a ticket to it. They didn't have to wait in a line to go through security to get to the party. None of that. It was an open, unique gathering of people to come in and celebrate with a purpose. And the purpose was just end the mandates. There's no pandemic. It's over. Like it's over. There's no need for any of this. Stop all the BS and just lift the mandates. Um, so let's celebrate that. And I would also like akin, at the very end, there were some heavy-handed footage, and we saw a bunch of like, the horse trampling, which was terrible. There was a bunch of soldiers that were stomping on the flag. That's terrible. I don't even know if those guys were Canadians. We saw UN planes. I mean, who knows what that's about? Underneath this emergency act, they talked about tools. Were foreign mercenaries, called in? We don't know. These some of the people on the front lines there, they just had numbers. There was no badges, there was no identification, which is really scary. So they're really full on stormtroopers. But that said, there was an amazing 17-day action that happened in Ottawa. And I think, the dancing, the energy, the high vibration, everyone who participated in that, it's time. If you're still in Ottawa holding out, it's done. It's over. Like, the club has closed for now. It'll open at a later date, but it's time for you to go home. It's time for you to go home as heroes. All you truckers and all the people who supported the truckers and participated in this, go home as heroes. Tell your stories to Canadians all around. Show them what actually happened on the ground, how peaceful it was, how loving it was, how much sharing and engaging it was. I mean, obviously, there's going to be a few bad apples, and I'm sure when you just bring so many people together, there can be kind of some tensions. But overall, I mean, everything that I saw and from the people that I've talked to up there, it was just a beautiful coming together of hearts and minds, with this purpose of freedom. I like to refer to it now as the Great Canadian Freedom Convoy. Uh, there's a real power in words, and I think if we keep referring to it as that, because it was truly great, the whole world has been watching. They've been cheering us on. The whole world is laughing right now at the fact that, and like laughing, and reputation of Canada is like in the trough. They can't believe, like, when you have a peaceful protest unlike the world has ever seen. Like there's even broken glass. And if there was a broken glass, if it was a broken beer bottle, it got cleaned up. It's not on the street after this whole thing. There was no damage. There was no fire. There was no cars turned over. There was no violence against the police. It was super peaceful. I mean, we saw Danny Bulford, like he made a video, and I wish Sonny was on because we could queue up some videos. But we're just gonna keep this one short. Maybe we'll get Sonny on in a little bit. I know he's a little bit, kind of like, iffy on all this because there's a lot of fear. The threat of closing down your bank accounts. They're like they keep pushing. They're just pushing. They're bullies. They keep pushing. They're pushing. They're pushing. They're abusing their power. And but what happens when you keep pushing is like you're creating this tension, and I feel what's going to emerge out of this tension is just like a renaissance, is this freedom renaissance is going to bloom forward out of it. And how that effectively can kind of manifest is through creation. It's like, I wouldn't have written this book. What's more like a booklet that I'll be launching tomorrow, like in an exponential time frame, talking about how we need to start thinking and having an actual discussion about, in this government, do the people have any voice? How many people wrote MPs? How many people called senators? How many people have called the governor general? Do these MPs in Parliament Hill represent the Canadian voice at all? I think some of them do, but most of them do not. And I think the general structure of it is such that it doesn't represent Canadians anymore. And it's like, the Westminster governance model, which we inherited from England, is basically like using Morse code when we're in a time of electricity. Like, it doesn't make sense. So why do we do this anymore? So let's start looking at new models and check out the word DAO, DAO, DAO. decentralized autonomous organization. It's like using the technology behind Bitcoin and blockchain to create a robust, immutable code foundation structure, and then on top of it, people are the one who vote in it and participate in it and submit proposals into it. And we can explore concepts like liquid democracy. So it's right there, liquid democracy. It's a beautiful term. Check it out on Wikipedia. Understand it's about you know I have a vote and I want to delegate it to Sunny, I can delegate it to Sunny. If I want to delegate it to Justin, I can delegate it to Justin. If Justin betrays me, I can pull my vote back from it. I can also participate directly and be able to vote on the issues, as I feel I should vote on it. And if others wanted to trust in other people, they can become stewards and they can trust in other people. And this way, we have a much more direct, seamless kind of democracy where those who want to be engaged on the decisions and the discussions like can be engaged. There's a lot of people that don't really want to be engaged in politics or policy or governance, and that's fine. But every 2 to 4 years, like, the media machine goes into overdrive into this election mode, and the signs go up and like all this work goes into trying to secure one little mark, like one check mark on a ballot that, the majority winner of those check marks then gets the power. So it's my frankly ridiculous, and it excludes a huge number of voices. And like, look to the PPC party, they drew the largest rallies of anyone last election. They were huge, it was positive, it was peaceful, it was awesome. Like, people are having such a great time and they were really believing in this. And then come voting time, it's like, they're excluded from the general debates. So people couldn't even hear Max's positions on things. Candidates were excluded from riding debates too. My friend Ian in Toronto, he was excluded. He couldn't even participate. And that was an opportunity for us, for Canadians using the People's Party to go and challenge some of these incumbents to say, hey, do you really believe this? Or like challenge them on their positions, or like bring new ideas to the table. And that just doesn't happen in the existing system. So we need to look at a new system, and that's what I think we can do with a DAO. Pull up the chat here. Will Kyle be arrested for his next podcast? Will I? I don't think so. Yeah, the last campaign, the PPC was like, just played as racist. I remember people were triggered into thinking Max Bernier was like some sort of Nazi. It's like this weird double think that takes place when like, it's like the pot calling the kettle black. Is that what it is? But it happens like all the time. I am not in Canada right now. I wish I was in Canada right now, but I am in America. It is a dangerous time, but again, there is lots of light in this. I know we are scared. I know a lot of people are scared about this, but again, like, the anger and the challenges that we're facing, like, they keep pushing. But like, let's talk for a second about the reality about what happened. Okay, bank accounts have been getting frozen, closed. Take preventative actions. I think Bitcoin is something good to look at. We just can't trust in this fascistic state. You can't trust the financial institutions. So you need to look for other alternatives. Having cash is important because we need to pay rent and things like that. So holding on to cash, maybe getting paid in cash. There is value in the cash, but as well, also like accumulate, like, maybe it's time to take some of that cash and accumulate some wealth. Like, dude, everything is going up in prices. Grocery stores, like, inflation is here, and it's also kind of a manipulated inflation, which is something to deal with. really wish Sunny was on with me because then we could be kind of help go through this. This is the first time I've done this, alone. But I appreciate all of you, and I felt like this need to do it because um, there is a lot of kind of hurt out there and a lot of fear right now. But I think people just let's breathe, let's celebrate our wins, let's recognize that everything that's coming out of parliament right now is just further provocation, and to they're pushing us to innovate and create. I would highly recommend that Justin does do like an ayahuasca ceremony or something, or a combo ceremony, or goes through some cleansing. It feels like, I at the same time, I'm really also like, grateful to Justin. That might sound kind of weird, but um he has pushed so hard that he's brought all of this energy and this fire together and united Canadians behind this cause of freedom. And you're not alone. I know a lot of people thought they were alone and felt disconnected, but went to Ottawa and been like, "Yo, we're connected. We're humans. We love. We we hold these values. You're not alone. You are the passionate. You are those who are honestly standing on guard for thee." And that's what I feel like these truckers did. And it was nonviolent, like, again, nonviolent, like peaceful, wonderful celebration. Now we're going to see the roles of the police action over and over again. And that's and like they might try and like frame the whole thing like that police action that we saw at the very end. But just remember, that was basically like the club getting closed down and everybody getting pushed out, and they needed to get everybody out of Ottawa, and they were hell bent on it, and they did it, and they and I'll be honest, they effectively did it. Nobody died. It was generally peaceful. People were arrested. They were detained for a little bit, and then they were let go with no charges. Some people were just being picked up, driven 20 minutes away, and dropped off. Like it was it was really just a show and an optics. And I feel like they wanted those like 100 people arrested just so they could have those headlines on the mainstream news, because they need to keep the people, like the old people. I talked to my grandfather, it was his birthday, 101 years old. Happy birthday, RP. He's like, "Oh yes, the protesters, like, we're good to see them go." Because he's 101 years old and he is just getting his information from the tube and from the newspapers. He wasn't out there. He didn't have that opportunity. He's living in a home. You know what else he does? He votes. So that's the he will vote. And like a lot of other people like him, will vote, but they're not like, necessarily, actually active in the discussions or even in the know about truly what's kind of going on and transpiring. Um, all right, let me look at some of these questions here. WEF, World Economic Forum. World Economic Forum, World Economic Forum, World Economic Forum, WEF, WEF, WEF. Uh, yeah, I mean, it looks like they've got their tentacles all over this party, and they're trying to push their agenda, which people have been warning about and covering about. And when we look at the pyramid of power and to understand the pyramid of power, like at the very top is like the ultra super global elite, people like the Queen and the Vatican and the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. And then underneath that, you get like the billionaire dictators like Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos and I don't know, George Soros, etc. And then you get to like a layer beneath that, and then you get these organizations, and then you get the politicians like a layer under that in this gigantic pyramid. So the politicians aren't at the top of the pyramid, despite what you might think. Justin being the leader of this thing, he's not the leader. He is like a lower level on it. And he actually has to report and like take orders from these people. So when we think in our democracy, when we're like voting for this higher level, it's not actually that's not the case. We're on the lowest level. Now, I watched this really beautiful video yesterday about like this shift that's going on in terms of like consciousness. And if you stack a pyramid of sugar cubes, I would love to show that. Maybe find it later. But if you stack a pyramid of sugar cubes and then you put water, and we'll call that water like the awakening of the consciousness, it permeates the lowest level first. Like the people are the ones who like start waking up, and then it starts seeping up the pyramid, and then the pyramid ultimately dissolves right into the pool of mass consciousness. This pyramidal hierarchical structure from the Piscean age will not carry into the Aquarian age. The great awakening of humanity is inevitable. Nothing can stop it. It's whether it happens at an accelerated rate or it takes a little bit longer, but it is happening. These models from yesteryears will not be applied into here. And I will say that it feels like they are pushing us so hard. And what we have to do when pushed really hard is art, is be creative, use all of our skills, use our left side logical and right side creative together in unison to do whatever it is that we can do in our individual personalities and capacities. Go out there, create a mural, hold a party, get a speaker, write a petition, join join a board, start an organization, join an organization, get involved, write a book, start a broadcast. There's so many ways. Make a painting, make a cartoon, do something. Constantly just consuming and being angry about it doesn't really do much. It actually kind of just feeds their power. So like if you like it's time to like invite people over, like have a talk, like reflect on things, go for a dance, put on some hot music, like just change your vibration. We are multidimensional beings. We can operate at lower levels and like be focused on safety and security all the time, or we can like raise into higher dimensions and like really be closer to source. I don't know if that makes any sense. um Mina, go into politics. Well, that's why we want to make a DAO, is like so that because becoming, a lot of people have said like become yeah, mimetic warfare. Also make memes, like if you're good at memes, make memes, crush it with memes. Memes are so powerful. Like this is where we're at. Like take a playbook out of take a note from Elon, and what he drives and garners, and the support for them. And like memes are so powerful. I mean, look at Dogecoin. Look at this beautiful meme right behind me. Doge is awesome. Doge, like Bitcoin is like the gold. Doge is like the copper, but way cuter. It works really well. It's cheap to send. It's fun. It's cute. It's a mimetic community, and it's a community based on giving. When it comes to crypto, I've always said like hodl your savings, spendle your checkings, and givel with love. So like crypto isn't just about, like, Bitcoin isn't just about hodling. If we all just hodl our funds like forever, I mean, then it's like, what? You're just gonna hold on to your wealth? You're gonna be like, Smog the Dragon sitting on your pile of gold? Like, why don't you like use your wealth and put it back into society? Like, acquire wealth, grow wealth, share wealth. Don't be attached to the material possessions, but use it. Like Bitcoin is great because in crypto, and Doge is great because you can actually use it. As like as a transactional layer. Like stop using email money transfer and stop using Visa if you can. Like encourage businesses, will you accept crypto? Let's start actually transitioning to crypto, but I would also say in a self custody statement. um in a self custody model, which means you hold your own keys. So I recommend the wallet Edge Wallet to other people. It's a great wallet. It like has multiple currencies. It's super easy. Um, yeah, right. These comments. This is so awesome, but it's I suffer from like distractions. One of the reasons I really can't despise televisions in like restaurants and bars, because like the flickering that's always going on, it's like notifications on your screen. It's just always so distracting. And I worked in a restaurant in Ottawa for a very long time, and like you'd see people like dining, and but then when the TV's on, like they're just disconnected. The tube just sucks you in. Like cover those TVs up, cancel those cable subscriptions. That's a way like we can also passively resist the kind of the empire forces, is just stop giving it our power and stop giving it our money. So, cover that TV up, unplug that TV, unplug that Wi-Fi at night. Put your phones on airplane mode. Don't sleep with them in the same room as you. Recognize your body is a temple. You need to protect. You need to protect your environment. Same with your children. I'm a child. I'm a father. I've got 4 children. My wife's at the hospital right now. I was at the trampoline park earlier today. My son got landed on by a bigger boy and broke his leg. Oh, oh. So we got 2 months probably of a 2.5-year-old in a cast, which is just, gonna make things a little more difficult. But that's life. You get the ups and the downs. You get this and that, and that'll be a good learning experience for him and for everyone else. But I just want to say, let's keep this vibration high. I was on TCN today, the Toronto Caribbean News Network, and I had an amazing talk with Simone Smith, I think it is, Goldsmith maybe. She's so beautiful, it was so wonderful, but talking about celebrating what has happened here. This was a total success, phenomenal success. I mean, not total, like absolute perfect scenario would have been like drop all the mandates. That I think would have been good. A bunch of the mandates have fallen. A bunch of the mandates will continue to fall. But the fact they keep pushing us just actually is going to push us a little bit harder to innovate and create and start looking at the systems, because we really need to design these systems from the ground up. And this isn't about overthrowing government. This is creating a new model that makes the existing one kind of obsolete. Because honestly, I feel like the people of Canada have lost faith in and respect, honor for what was once a great institution, which served a really important role. But again, it's Morse code in the era of internet. Um, that rigmarole that we saw earlier today. They're voting for their paychecks right now. All those NDP, they know they're in such hot water. They definitely don't want an election. There's like too much at stake, especially with conservatives with Pierre Poilievre. I mean, he's a really good politician, and he's going to he's going to play politics hard. And Justin's he's got a gash on it, if you want to akin it to like boxing, like he is bleeding from his ears, from his eyes. He's got a gash on his forehead, and we're going into into the later rounds, and Pierre's can see it. So um you know I think he'd likely be kind of the next prime minister, but ultimately still a politician, and it's still about us, the people, giving our votes to these representatives with no system of accountability to hold them accountable other than just a trust. And there's still this broken system of you got to win the majority to get the seat, and then it just creates this weird power structure and composition, which is based on a really old doctrine, again, when we didn't have Morse code versus electricity. We don't need to do it this way anymore. Let's look at new ways to do it. This book is going to be dropping in tomorrow. It's going to go on pre-order. I'm going to see how soon I can get it out. It's pretty much ready. I'll say it's not a long book, guys and girls. This is not a long book. It's going to be a booklet. It's going to be 10, 11, 12, 15 pages. That's about it. But concise, to the point, and it's going to come with a very small fee. I think it's going to be $2 or $3 for it. That will help fuel my efforts towards creating more of them and helping facilitate this. But I've also talked to all sorts of people and really awesome people from the industry, and everyone's like, yo, this is the time. This is the time to do this right now. We need the Canada. We need, a new model of governance. We need liquid democracy, because the faith, there's just no accountability. And they can commit egregious, commit all these they haven't had a budget in 3 years. No budget. 3 years. This is good. Budget. It's March is coming up. Will they have a budget? Probably not. That's 3 years, no budget. How does the government not have a budget? It's completely bananas. and there's no accountability on spending. There's literally hundreds of billions of dollars that is not tracked. That is a disaster. Where does that money go? When like, when the pockets are loose and we're like, we're talking about these ginormous amounts of money, and they're flying, the checks are flying left, right, and center. Like, man, there's people profiteering, there's people taking cuts on it, there's backroom deals happening, there's too many things being purchased that we need, like 11 doses of this experimental magnetic concoction for every Canadian, like that nobody wants anymore. So it's like, wow, great. We've got eight useless, eight times 35 million useless doses that we probably prepaid for, and probably also signed some sort of like contractual obligation to utilize our politicians, our health officers, and our school teachers and school boards and our medical associations to act as advertisers for this stuff, because as we know in Canada, you can't advertise drugs on television or in schools. So they use the politicians to. It's so like, especially and even when they do, they're like, yeah, serious side effects may occur. I mean, that's another whole like can of worms, but I feel like a lot of people are hip to all that game. But um yeah, there's just a lot of like, shady things that have been happened, but it's all got us to this point. And so now we're at this point. So it's like, what do we do from here? And I just say we create, and like, unleash that inner artist within you. Maybe I should run for the PPC. No, I don't want to run for any party. I want to keep raising my kids, and I want to like look at new structures, because this structure is really broken. That it's like, you can spend so much effort, and I have like, integrity issue. I have like questions of integrity with regards to like, how does the elections function, and the fact that there's so much energy that just goes into that one voting day, that just don't trust it. I don't think many people trust it anymore either. So it's like we need to have like, we need to go back to kind of first principles with this, and um and think about how, if we wanted to build this, what are some of the principles, that all Canadians can agree on, like all Canadians. It's like, so we need to create this like, this common framework, like freedom, true north, strong and free. um that we have like medical autonomy, like, that we have the freedom of religion, freedom of speech, like some of the basic like, constitutional um fundamentals. Because when we establish this massive transformational purpose, and this is like, if you always want to like some good reading too, like check out Salim Salim, Ismail, Ismail or IAL. He's like the writer of the book called Exponential Organizations, and he's like an exponential thinker. And he gives some really great talks. And he looks at like, he's got an institute called the Fast Track Institute that looks at how can we bring about radical change in a short amount of time. And it always involves radical collaboration, bringing together all the stakeholders. And like, we're talking about Canada right now. We got to bring together all the stakeholders of Canada and have like, a hardcore discussion of Canadian stakeholders, not like, the corporatocracy, like, Davos, like, you know people, uh, whatever. We bring together the Canadians and like discuss what do we want, what's our purpose, what are the ideal outcomes that we want to see in our governance system, what is the role of government, and how should it function in the governance system. And then I outline the ideal outcomes for how all this can work, um, you know, as a desired outcome. And then once we have the ideal outcomes and we have like general stakeholder like cohesion and understanding, and it's a participatory discussion as opposed to, like one person, like myself, for example, saying, this is the way it's gotta be, or Justin saying, this is the way it's gotta be, or Pierre saying, this is the way it's gotta be. When you have that, there's natural, like, well, hold on, I don't trust you. So, but when you get everybody together at the table discussing things, then, like, you can break bread and collaborate and feel part of something, feel valuable, feel included. And then, like, when you set out the ideal outcomes and set the challenges in front of us, then you can um, basically issue the challenge, which can be like a bounty. So we literally like make a whole checklist, and in that process is, what is the system going to look like? And it doesn't matter. We don't need to think about like the perfect future situation. We can talk about, like, what are the short term, like, does we don't like just a simple shadow ledger is probably a good start of all the votes that Canadians could participate in, of their existing votes. Like, great. And then also enabling, maybe some referendums, allowing people to submit proposals until we can, like, really start ramping it out. But again, I'm just like, I want to engage and like bring in more people into this discussion to understand and to explore, like, how great can this system be. And I know that when you actually include people in open and transparent discussions, that great things happen. So, um, I think my sons just got home. I want to say ho'oponopono to everybody. Thank you very much. Stay strong, stay in the light. With great darkness comes light, great light too. Let's just keep shining this light on the darkness. Um, and be the best that you can be, and criticize by creating. Don't let these people get you too angry. That's what they're trying to do. They want to take your power. Don't give them your power. Um, and more than anything, like, thank a trucker, celebrate, this incredible experience that happened after any super epic, like, event. It's also always kind of normal for there to be a little bit of a dip afterward, but just, hold on to it and enjoy this and celebrate it, and like recognize that this was a truly incredible, like one of the most incredible gatherings the earth has ever seen, happening in Ottawa, one of, like, the really sacred sites. So it's very symbolic, it's very powerful. And the fact that they wouldn't even engage or talk just goes to show you how, scared they are. And I think it's also testament to the fact that they don't know, they can't talk. They can't talk because they don't know anything. They just read scripts. So they can't talk about it because they just read scripts. So, like, these are professional politicians, and they are so programmed into their little left right battle mode all the time that they can't even engage. So then they're not really, like, they're not getting deep on it. We've got so many people, like, who, like, and this is the key to the people. There's so much collective intelligence, there's so much passion, there's so much love. And what was on display in Ottawa was full love, creative passion, creation, unity. Massive love to all of you. Thank you. Can't believe it's been 40 minutes. Wow. Time flies. All right. Stay tuned. And tomorrow's 2/22/22. Enjoy the day. It's only going to happen once. Hey, farewell.